Please stand by. We are live. Let's see if stream is working. Undo, create highlight to create. Please stand by. Excellent connection. And YouTube. Do we get any URL? Current viewers, chat rate, your profile. Okay, we are live. Yeah, so we are live. So last time we left where we were able to create where we were able to get notes with tags. Now I think for today I will try to clean up, and we will see if we could come up with the better things, and let's clean up for today. If next probably let's see what else we can do. Okay, we also have a pending API for read, and auth as auth and we will simply do auth. So I was reading post by I think it will be hard to find now. I have it somewhere in my bookmarks, and I was reading that post by I think his name is Nikita, and he has for readability you should never refer to any function, just import the library as don't use refer, and I think let's see what happens. And let's try to run that. cd a51 org cmd lang ring server headless. So let's go to insomnia and protected. Let's copy that, duplicate, and notes. So for read API, REST API read. Understanding REST. So we will do cat on no reply, never mind. Okay, let's see headless CMS. I'm just looking for reference. Headless CMS, Netfly CMS, Ghost, I think Ghost CMS, Strappy. Products, price, developer, documentation, tutorial, guide, posts, blog, slug, podcast, slug, primary key, primary tag, podcast. Never mind, we will just send get on read, and let's go to code.clj. And should we also just clean everything and just use as? I think it will be clean, but at same time yeah, I'm pretty sure it will be clean. I think, I don't know, it depends, but I think then it will be much easier to. Yes, let's see, Nikita. Yep, that's the guy. And he had a post, readable Clojure, better Clojure formatting won't do, Clojure style guide won't do, as I understand current community standard. Yes, so there is also like Clojure style guide. I think I kind of read it. It's also good. Well, let's see what he has to say. Takes it as roots in the prior connection, but most of the Clojure is already written with that, within one format to rule them all. Okay, now to constrain and why none of the existing conventions no tool solves the problem. Is there Clojure format? Oh, I see, tool for formatting Clojure code. Nice. This is why config hard-coded rules exceptions based solution does not work. Added when some and if some, no formatters ported it, and as a result when let and when some was formatted differently. This is because when let. Okay, see, so that's not the post I'm looking for. Clojure software at Apple design readable Clojure, don't use. So I'm not sure if his post is still relevant, but we will see. So don't use, okay, and don't use refer anything either. Everywhere you bring from another namespace should be a namespace qualified. Okay, so he's talking about this refer, and it should be just as. Nice. But then again, you have like Composure core. Maybe for most of the time we can simply or we can simply say Composure and post get. Nice. Okay, you have also saved yourself name collision down. Yep, I noticed that problem. String yeah, so I noticed that problem with the HoneySQL, and I started to use just the HoneySQL as H. So what should be, let's refactor a bit. I would not say refactor, but clean up. Config, are we using config somewhere? Okay, so we can use as config, then config reader, config, right, then def jw cr, we can also cr, but I think that's just fine. So also let's test our APIs. Send invalid username and password. Okay, send protected copy response. So we are not even using response. Can simply get rid of that. Backends middleware, auth middleware, wrap authentication. Okay, buddy, auth authentication. Are we using? No, we are not using that. Router. Okay. Routes. Route. Are we using route somewhere? We are not using that. Wrap keyword param as keyword params. Now middleware keyword param, then the name will be like super long. Okay, so let's fix the easy issues. Wrap param. Can we just call middleware as middleware, then middleware params, wrap params? It will be like super confusing. Okay, params middleware. So we can do as params. Let's get rid of that. Params as params, and we will use wrap params, keyword params as keyword params. Then we will do okay, but most of the code I have seen on GitHub, nobody like really follows that. And I mean, the reason I'm doing, I kinda agree, like having it just if we don't refer, just use the package name. I think it's kind of clean in a way. It's easier to understand. It's a package and we are calling something from that package. And let's see how it goes. We can't be so sure. Right, def routing. So for this, now we are using refer authentication. Okay, auth middleware as auth. Okay, we can also do that, right? So we can use app middleware, auth middleware, and yeah, let's just do that. Auth wrap authentication. Interesting. Now, since we are using, now we still have this refer pending, and I think I will just keep it that way because yep, we can keep it as it is. And let's try to run applications. So hopefully nothing breaks, right? Okay, now let's add this. Okay, so from very long we haven't added any commit. That is strange. Cat remove recursive forcefully. Let's get rid of that. Lot of junk in here. Are we still live? Live dashboard. I'm not sure. Yep. So we get rid of that, but before we do that, we have to get GUI. Let's see what have we changed. Class name. Okay, so we also updated a migration driver to clj.jdbc, and I think the reason for that, there was a warning about it. Then we also cleaned up the home routing. Now the problem with that, we should have like added comments and stuff like that before, but we didn't do it. Now since like we have made a lot of changes, now it doesn't really make sense to just tell it like there are a lot of changes. So for example, for all these migrations, when we added it, we should have like a commit for the migrations, so it's easier to reverse this. And once we fix the dependency, we should have added a commit for that. And now when we are refactoring it, we should have added a commit for that. The reason is like it's easier to reverse back the changes. Like let's say I make a mistake in here, and if I want to reverse it, I basically reverse everything, and that is not ideal. So I think what we're gonna do, I will copy that file and paste in here, and we will undo the changes that we have created in that file, and let's see what happens. Git GUI, and there are still changes, which is fine. I think then that we can handle, but yep, I think it's acceptable for somehow it's acceptable. I think we can commit that. Let's say added migrations, and should we, I think we are fine. Just notes API, and we haven't really tested it, so we cannot be so sure. Notes API gbcp glog. Okay, so now use that file and copy and paste that. gs git GUI, so let's add a commit, use as instead. Again, I think it doesn't really make sense, and let's refer to the blog post. Nikita, okay, crazy. Where it is, not really that speed. It's hidden readable Clojure. Don't use. Okay, so I think I got that. Remove the refers from core file. remove from core. Remove. Okay, so let's see, are we using refer? We have to use auth, and we can do there to get rid of that, and read, we already fixed it. Authentication error. So find users find, interesting. So I think we also have to rename it, like now we will be calling it like user, then we're gonna find. If we just keep user, then find user, find user, that doesn't really make sense. Instead, I think this is kind of like more clear. Okay, so what the find user does, users, order find users, JS hasher. I think we have to change that HS. Now it's kind of like clear. Before that we just had H for HoneySQL. So I think we can be sure about H. Also, in scenario like that, we should have added testing. So once we like make all these changes, now it would be much easier for us to be more confident, like we kind of have more it's more like if we had test, then we basically don't have to worry about making small changes in our code. Okay, HS, are we using HS in here? So HS. Okay, let's see where we use refer. Find refer. Let's see what other use constant and unique namespace aliases. Use consistent and unique namespace aliases. The way you will be able to actually remember URLs and crap start to work. Keep the alias unique to if identity could be both entity, you lose all the benefit of this rule. Okay. Use long namespace aliases. You can use dots in aliases too. Yep, nice. I think that is cool. Okay, what else? Use long, choose readable over compactness. By contrast, to understand the following, you don't need any context. Okay, contains status, when contains possible status. By contrast, dense code, don't use them just because they are there. Always put readability and code clarity first. Sometimes it means even going against the Clojure's idioms. An example: to understand this piece of code, you need to know the possible state is a set. Possible state contains. By content is a following, or you don't need any context. Makes sense. Instead of using set as a function, get obviously kind of true. Unfortunately, Clojure mixes two very different domains. nil existence check and boolean operator. As a result, you have to constantly guess author's intent because they are not expressed explicitly in our code. Okay, and yep, I see. So he's saying we should when using when, if you want to check for nil, or maybe you have a one user case for nil and other user case for I think if you're just looking for if their value is nil, if we simply pass object and don't check it like cmd len wrapper. So let's say when nil okay, so with when you have this I think in when you pass an expression and the expression will evaluate to one value, and the following expression they will evaluate every the when will evaluate every expression, but it will return the last expression, and we can test it by calling print and call print2, and it will return null if we pass 1, and yes, it returns nil but it prints 1 and 2. I see. So he was saying that let's say we define def x1 and we get 1, right? So if we simply gonna say when the something value is true, now we don't know what we are looking for, whether is it nil or yep, it could be like a lot of things. What if it's a 0? Does when work with 0 or empty strings? Yep, does when consider empty string to be true or false? So to avoid this confusion, you simply just check with the sum, and I think it kind of makes sense. Or maybe it could be for simple nil check. And if you use okay, the more serious reason is that nil has false elements. When you want false to be possible value, correct error. Okay, correct error proof way to choose the first non-nil value. Okay, forget that. Avoid higher order function. Okay, that's interesting. I found the code that built functions with the compact and complain every previous sum happen to be harder to read, mainly because it looks different from the normal function called no parents. What exactly will happen? Okay, makes sense. I see. What I found easy to read though the LMS function syntax. Yep, it's kind of super easy to read. Sphere names, some facilities in Clojure, threading macros, LMS function, destructuring hide were designed to let you skip names. This is great, but sometimes so this is threading macro. Without the names, you are forced to keep all the. Okay, I see now. Oh, I see. So this is also like kind of clear. Okay, so I remember like when I was parsing HTML, I would simply parse the structure into list of functions the way it's described here, and we're designed to let you skip the names. Yes, it is that way, and we can, let's look at the code. cd dream cd web scraper code, and HTTP information retrieval. So I can see like we simply grab the post and first, then we get the anchor, we simply pass it to content first, and you could have like a lot of nested data, and you will just pass into functions, outer function. And I think at some point, if you want to like, so in here we have anchor, what we could have done. So let's say one way to write this could be, we get this threading macro, then we copy that function and we simply pass this to first, then anchor, and the list goes on, and at some point you will forget what will be the next data. So more like what will be the next structure, and like we defined, we're gonna get anchor. It could be we could have like this mini nodes, and for example we could have let's take example of post. So if we have post, and we also have like lot of let's create a entry, and we have post. It's kind of like super easy example, and one we have already for let's say for notes we used some sort of like we also already have this in works. Let's say we have notes, and notes have like text field, and let's pass empty text. Now it also has tags, and this is like very basic example, but it could get very confusing. So according to that post, and he said so let's say we also have tags, and tags could have title. So according to that post, he said like if you want to like destructure or get a data from the root element, it will be much nicer if we define let nodes, and let's say first from, let's say we name it xyz, which will be this map, and then we can access nodes, right? After that we can say tags from nodes, and if we are looking for first tag, we can simply first tags. So now in here it's kind of readable, nodes tags first. If we have to do like a way where we just simply don't have to care, if we could do something like that for simple, where we don't simply care about naming everything, we will just pass the data into pipeline and it will get the last item. And I think there is a lot that can go wrong. So let's say we get the nodes, then we get tags, then we get the first element of the tag. Let's say there is one more nested thing, and we simply call title, and let's say there is more more clutter, so we will just keep doing that. And this example is really readable as of now, but I think you can simply call that in here. But the example he showed, where we simply define a database, atomic db xy, okay, so table, I don't know what he's doing, atoms, and first atoms, text id, entry id, okay, so kind of makes sense. Yep. So in case you have a lot of different things going on in one threading macro, you might wanna name everything for readability. I think it's a good point. Okay, here because it's simple user all the way until the end, intermediate can be omitted. Okay, so nice. Don't use first, second, and to unpack the tuple. What? Although this works. Value. I see. So use destructure in for loop instead of calling functions on tuple. Don't fall for the expanded opts. It's extremely cool, and it saves you 2 curly brackets at the call side. As opts apply, the downside are much more serious. Start will extremely painful to call if you construct map of options dynamically. If you need to do it through apply, I recommend to always accept the option as a map. Okay, I have a code where I'm destructuring the hell out of a map, and kind of makes sense, and we have it in here. Let's get rid of that first. And it's in not in URL builder, I think it's in information retrieval. It's in URL, right? So I mean, now I look at it, I think it's easy, it's super clean to just pass in map, and now it will be a bit difficult to clean this up. So I think it's a good point. And the star was chosen because it's a sample pointers. To refer reference are there, so they need dereference name at some point, sometime. They are not that different to invent a unique combination of the name each time. I suggest simply of period star to refer. Okay. I think overall very good post for me. Use don't fall expense option. I think I'm making that mistake already, or am I? Kind of, yes. Downside of are much more serious. Star will be extremely painful to call if you construct map of options dynamically. Oh, I see. At this point, I don't know how you construct that dynamically, but I think this is one thing I should learn about it. So use as prefix. Okay, so we simply take the entry and okay, I think this is where I as you can see, like I have a lot of things going on and I should probably clean it up and simply accept and yeah, I think I simply accept a simple map and clean this thing up. So yep, so this will be my to-do list for this simple thing. Align let find into okay, use two empty lines between the top level forms. So that is simple. Okay, let's get rid of that. So he's saying when we create a space for a new function or a top level form, he's referring to that. It's a top level, this is also top level. He said like use two spaces instead of one and like this. Okay, seems unimportant, but trust me, once you try it you'll never want to go back. Okay. Okay, so we did learn a lot of things. So we like for we like if we can simply use validate so validate dot validate. Interesting. Clean data validate. Are we using config here? Yes, we are using config gen jwt. So this function should be somewhere else, not in authentication login. Config reader has okay, so where we are, conf find user, we also have to rename that, but we will not do that in here. We simply model user. Do we want to use models? I think it will be much nicer to use it as model. Find user, model users would find. We could have used models users. Let's not worry about spec. Why are we importing spec in here? Stupid. So I also noticed this, the S thing, it's kind of hard to search, so I think we should probably avoid that. Like using a proper name is much sane way. I think it's better to avoid using short names. So this kind of looks ugly already. Validate config user, find user name. Response error, okay. Authentication jwt. Okay, one more thing we can do, we can change the order, but then again it gets like how much you want to clean up. Then you also add spacing. Can you add, if we say that, is it clear? I would say kind of. Yeah, we can say it's more readable that way, but then again, once you add a long namespace, I think this is where Go format kind of shines. It's kind of default thing built into the language. I would not say in the language, but in the standard packages, like it's default in Go. You can't ignore it, and it's like everyone accepts it. And the compiler comes with formatter. That's kind of cool. And let's do that in here, and let's see how much we have changed so far. F51. So I think after watching reading his post, I'm probably gonna clean this thing up, and I notice how stupid it is to use destructure the entire map like that. So I'm also like using the entry, but I think it's better to just use it in same way. And we don't want to save anything. Let's save that. Okay, cmd exit git GUI. Okay, quit cd or g clear git GUI. So we can. So one of the issue with doing a bulk refactor, since it's a small project and we have like just starting out, I think we can take the risk to go over the 4 or 5 files and refactor that, like make changes. But let's say we have a large project and we simply can't do that. In that scenario, I would simply recommend doing like, if there are a lot of changes, I would suggest do one change and fix this first instead of rewriting the entire file. It's really hard to review. And for example, if you are fixing this scenario and let's say this file is like 500 lines and there are like a lot of mistakes with formatting, you simply start with the top and use as, then replace everything in the file and commit that. And yeah, I think that would be like same way. Else you would be like end up doing all sort of crazy things, renaming the packages, renaming everything. So yep. So for example, we also have to rename that. So do we rename just like this and then also update that file? I think it's better to, if we going to rename this function find user, we better do in the next commit. If that was a like large file or large project, yeah, it's much better to do small changes than do large changes and no one knows what's up. So this my take, right? Else, a lot of stupid things going on here. Okay, select keys, then again we use v, which is kind of stupid. As validate, we also have to rename this now because validate what, kind of stupid. Is valid, we'll see. Adjust hasher, right. So one of the things I also noticed that encryption library simply store the prefix in the database. That was annoying for me. So let's see, heady SQL. I think I already mentioned it. CLJ user data. So we have this prefix in database. I don't know why they decided to add it. But I haven't seen any other library do that, like where you simply add a prefix. Okay, so let's clean it a bit. Response body auth response. Okay, authentication. We do that. So in that scenario, do we use H or Honey SQL? Now that is interesting. Should we just refer to all the functions that are in Honey SQL? Interesting. I think H will do fine for now. We kind of also have to clean this thing. Also the names, they are kind of like all stupid. Notes with tags, it doesn't really make sense. Okay, let's space it out. User, find user. I think we will just do it once we done with formatting. Okay, refer to Clojure API as. I think aligning as makes sense, kind of clear in a way. Okay. Then again we have this, right? Authentication, validate, clear. Okay, close that out, don't save. Let's see, rules. Okay, why we are using P? It's to okay, can we just refer? Yeah, I think in that scenario we can just refer. Right, and as user model, nah, bad idea. User model store user, I think it's much better. And then we have as, we can align it with the key spec. Also we also have to clear all the top levels. We add 2 spaces, then again we have just defined those errors, and I'm not sure if I want to do that with them, but let's do this with the other. Maybe I will interesting. So we have all these functions. Def, I think I would just simply keep them that way. Also add more space. Okay, I'm not sure if just once he like highlighted, it looks kind of more clear, or is it actually clear? So clean up. probably want to get rid of that. User to PCs, fine. Okay. Util. I think it's super hard to understand. Recursive, right? I think this function also could use some help, or it's like super easy. When he should use when, no, one not gonna work in that scenario. And generate string. As then we get rid of that. As response, util response. Util response. Interesting. Should we pass in threading macro? So we have this JSON, right? This will be our JSON. Then we build a response. Then we build response. Then we append header. Okay. Now we also have to close that. Okay. Let's format that. What we can do, we can simply so we have this data and we generate JSON. So this is the example I think he talked about, where we have the data and then we call the list of functions, then we simply kind of lose track of the things. So let's try something like we call let and JSON on data, then we simply call this function, right? So now we have JSON and we create a response, ring response. Util, instead of util, I think response, I think response will do just fine, or maybe ring response. Ring response, I think this is much better. Ring response, then we JSON. Okay, now I remember the ring response. It takes a body and response, then we get the response. Now we simply a sock to that, and I think it's much clearer now, and his post was really good, I would say. Yep, overall I think super cool. Go ahead, I will just add it in description. I think it was good post. Some noticeable differences. Error, so definitely good. Okay, I kind of stupid just okay. So we using just J for JDBC. JDBC instead of J. I think I want to use JDBC. HoneySQL, we have to use H for that. There is no way around it. SQL refer. Probably throw this thing at the end. Let's see where else we are using J. SQL config CFG reader config okay, this is the exact example. I think it's much better to name things and assign them in variable than pass to next, right? So we have start. So this is kind of straightforward. We can keep it that way. It takes a second argument, is timestamp, then we insert table. Insert ID, what it does. Okay. Insert ID, it's simply getting the ID from the response. I think we should use Latin here instead of using threading macro. Let stamped values, stamped val, right, stamped value, then we insert, right, insert we can simply define db at the top, def db, right? So def db. Now we just simply do add db, and you might also notice that we are making a lot of changes, and it's better if you have like a big project or maybe a big refactor. It's better to just change it a bit one by one, right? So insert timestamped values table. What it returns is response, which is generated key from that entry. Then we simply can call from that entry inserted ID from response, and we have this ID value. Now we simply return that ID, right? So much clear. Or we can simply call like return this at the end, inserted ID. Okay, in inserted ID, I will just keep it as ID. I think it's more readable that way. Inserted ID, so values, attach timestamp values. So why don't we just do that? Okay. Anyways, we should not be making any changes, like once we just start making changes and most of the time something does go wrong, and if you don't know, like, you kind of break the entire build. So it's better not change, don't make changes more than, like, I think this is like this in Laravel. Laravel. So the author of the Laravel framework talked about where he had to review the entire format changes in a one file, and he said something along the lines like, there were so many changes, it was super hard to review. Instead of changing entire thing at once, why don't you just simply make small changes that are like, once you fix all the imports, once you fix the renaming function to the better name, like something like that, or maybe once you, so if it's a renaming, if you want to like add more spaces in one file, just add spaces, fix the spacing and commit it that way, instead of changing a lot of things at once. Buddy auth as auth. So read, create, okay, login. The validation library can use better naming for sure. And I think we are done cleaning up, and it's not finished. We have to also fix the names in user. Before we do that, let's see if we broke everything, and just see we did, and it's notes.clj and 42 user table in context notes 42 user table. What did we, okay, notes table, I think it's from previous. So select all from user table, username. I see. I think this function shouldn't be there. Find, are we using somewhere? Nope. I think it belongs to user, not in here. I think we must have screwed something. So as you can see, it gets super tricky. Yeah, like, what if the error previously existed, now you simply don't know, right? So I think, yeah, so we can simply have to get a query, and let's go to notes. So that did existed before. We might have added maybe in previous commits, I don't know, but we have to get rid of that, and we also need to clean that up as soon as possible. Tags, filter. So what we are filtering? So we are filtering in tags by name. Okay. Okay, never mind. Query get count. So this is also this is also where we can simply say query and I will not fix anything in here. We will just keep it that way. I think I definitely learned a lot of things from that post, so we should be able to like. Now I think it's just working fine. And let's git GUI, change the names. Without testing, if you don't have tests, there is no way to like test the entire application just by running these requests. It doesn't really mean anything, and it's better to have test. And I will see the next step how we're gonna add test in our REST API. So I think for today we did learn a lot of things about formatting Clojure. Yeah, I'll just commit this one. Clean up, or more like refactor. Clean up. GPCP. Push origin master username. GitHub profile repository. I think we should also rename this repo. I think I will just finish a notes application and source cleanup. Let's see our history, commit history. Remove refer from core. So see, in this cleanup we simply don't have no idea what's gonna be in it. So in remove refer from core file, it's super clear that somebody removed that from core file, and once you like see this, and it will be like easier for reviewer to review, like you can simply confirm that the dude made changes only to those things. And we did get rid of few packages, and we should have mentioned in commit, right? This is why the commits are. I think it looks good so far. I will just close this stream. Okay, a lot of changes. Yep. So I guess that's about it. We will work on it tomorrow. Let's just close the stream. Where is the stream? Go live, end it. A live dashboard and